People, look up in the sky. There's a bird. There's a plane. Damn it. It's James Gunn's Superman. Welcome to the Mike Knoxxx Show, the Mike Knoxxx Network, BDSR Network, that is here on your airways, wherever you are. Facebook, Xbox, Instagram, Twitter land, Candyland, it don't matter, Krypton land. I'm there. I am here as a fanatic. Anybody who's followed me knows how much of a Superman fan I am. So to me, bigger than any other fan in existence, I set myself for a very big letdown. And that's what we're here to talk about today. Very heavy spoiler review here we're going to have. So if you have not seen the movie, pause us, come back later, and then rewatch it. But make sure you still pause us. Now, let's talk about James Gunn's Superman. But today, before we talk about that movie, I am joined by BDSR Networks. Oh, I'm sorry. That is us. Yes, over here, Mr. Freckles Sensei, going on in the house. What's going on, Freckles?
What's good? I've been waiting to review this. This has been, as we all know, on this network. This is blockbuster season. So, what better else to start off with an American? Some might say woke, and we'll get into that later.
Here we go.
American woke movie of the summer. It's more woke than, according to people, it's more woke than Sinners.
We're gonna leave that nonsense in the pan, let it fry, and come back. We got the next doctor. All right, y'all, from Unpop Review Entertainment's the Federation Tuesday. Y'all can check them out. Y'all know who they are. Friends of the program forever and a day. What's going on next, doctor?
Listen, man, I may not be as big of a Superman fan, but my alarm clock is the original Superman theme song every day. Okay. So I wake up to Superman. So I love me some Superman too. I may not have the merch, but I have the mindset every morning.
My daughter went to go get my refill, and she said she walked past a group of people all having a shirt, and she just sipped out the cup like, y'all ain't got this. You know what I'm saying? That's Michaela Wonders for y'all. We love you, Michaela. Y'all know what y'all can find her at. Michaela Wonders everywhere as always. Make sure y'all follow her on her TikTok page. But we're talking about James Gunn's Superman. Okay, like I said, I anybody who knows me in real life or on this life or even has the opportunity to talk to me, I probably nauseated you for how much I said this movie has to be good. One executive consultant from Unpop Review, he can contest to that. We'll get into him a little bit later as well. Okay, pause. But when Superman gets thrown into conflict at his home aboard, his actions are questioned. His actions are questioned. I can't even talk about that part. Giving a technical billionaire Lex Luthor the opportunity to get the Man of Steel out of ways for good. He wants to kill this man, lock him up, do what he can to get rid of Superman. And that's basically the movie. Let me just start off by saying this. And I got to say this because everybody wants to say this. This is what we do when we talk about movies. Comparing this film to Man of Steel is insane. It's like telling me that you can actually say that Schumacher's Batman and come on, they're two different movies, people. Okay, Tim Burton's. So Batman, they're two different kind of movies, two different temperatures. That DC universe that no longer exists, which I was personally a fan of, let me say I understood what people didn't understand and didn't like about it, which gives you why this movie has the tone that it has in it. They wanted that to be Gods Among Us. The game was out. We're bigger than anything in the world. They can't compete with Marvel at this point. We're gods. Let's go show we're gods. It failed. You know why it failed? Because what makes Marvel tick to me and most people out there is the emotion that Marvel knows how to get you into. And Marvel's very good at that. And DC didn't give no connection to emotion. So does this movie have emotions? That's what I want to lead and talk about that right there. For me, just a quick hit real fast, guys. I like the action. I thought it was too short. It could have been 25, 30 minutes, 40 minutes longer, in my opinion, because they did not go into certain detail enough about certain characters, and that bothered me. Okay. I thought the action on the screen was like me watching Saturday morning cartoons. That's what I felt like I was watching Justice League, and I knew the vibe of the movie going into because I called the vibe of the movie going into. I said it reminds me of the very first Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire with all the colors. It was so many colors in this thing you could see rainbows in this damn movie. And I know a lot of people did not like the camera angles that were in this movie. I love James Gunn's directorial, the way he did everything was moving on this screen, and I absolutely. It was, I loved it for that. But that's where I'm gonna go right there. We know the plots of the movie. Your overall opinions thus far, Freckles Sensei, on this film.
I know where I stand on this movie. I would say argumentative. You can for argument's sake, y'all can say it, but one of the top 3 Superman movies of all time, hands down. And it's so funny because I didn't know that James Gunn had said this earlier during like an interview, but he was talking about certain origin stories that we just don't need to see anymore. He was like, I don't need to see Uncle Ben getting killed anymore. I don't need to see Bruce Wayne's parents dying anymore. I don't need to see Superman's baby form coming down to. We've seen it already. This movie gave us Superman getting his ass kicked in the beginning of the movie. Already sold. You already sold me now. Like it's like what
Well, some people, I'm gonna be honest with you, did not like that at all. And I have to say, early on when I heard those people, it was weird, right? Because especially if you've been burned by the CW, we're tired of seeing Superman get his ass kicked. Well, so that didn't go for a lot of big time Superman fans seeing that first trailer of him hitting the snow. They were already like, "Fuck this movie." They were.
But this is what's so funny about nerds. Nerds claim to be smart, but they can't. They hate to read because literally the captions right before the movie started, it said 3 years after he was discovered he was Superman. So that means a whole hater. Now let's give, first of all, I know we're skipping, but let's give props to Lex Luthor because Lex Luthor gave Kendrick Lamar vibes about Drake because the way he hated this man,
every aspect. He hated his eyebrows.
He spent me 3 years. This man, I never seen somebody just takes the time out and uses a real life Tekken Street Fighter type shit on a human being and just beating his ass. Like
that's why he was to the point that even in the movie, Superman said in a James Gunn comedy way it was getting a little bit kind of weird how you're obsessed with me.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because you're like, he like, I'm in the car with the executive consultant. I like this Lex, and I'm gonna say it. I love Smallville. I think it's a different kind of Lex and whatever. He's arguably the best people love if you don't count Gene Hackman, but mostly we'll say Michael Rosenbaum was the best Lex Luthor. I'm sorry, Nicholas Hoult is now my favorite Lex because I can't like him. Like ultimately, I ended up loving Lex from Smallville. Despite everything, I couldn't. This dude was a bona fide hater. Next Doctor,
listen, and to go off of what Freckle Sensei said, the thing about Superman is that he's a brawler. At least his original. He doesn't have like martial skills. It's just strength followed through with the punch. And I think that was showcased with how Lex was able to just figure out, okay, he's just a brawler. I know how I can, go past his stuff because he's not using any real type of, martial arts. Later on in the comics, Superman realized that is one of his weaknesses and he does learn some martial arts. But the early Superman, and that is what this Superman is, he doesn't have like the martial skill. So it was easy, even though Lex is, kind of a genius, it was easy for him to be outsmarted in his skill set with, the Tekken moves. And I like that aspect that they show, okay, he's not really a technical fighter. He was be able to be outsmarted that way.
My kids love that part. A1.
And I was like, man, that was so great. But, backing up a bit, I loved from the first scene, not even the first scene, the first showing where they show Superman in the classic Christopher Reeves area font. I knew from that moment I was going to like this movie because that set the vibe. this was the Superman, the Boy Scout Superman.
Yes.
And you talk about the Man of Steel. I loved Man of Steel, but I think this was more of a Superman movie because he was the boy. He was the truth and justice.
The
and
ultimate Boy Scout next Doctor.
Yes, and this is what he was trying to be. And throughout the movie, especially when Lex got a hold of the footage and fixed it, and then he saw, oh, this is what my parents really wanted, and it really shook him to his core. So much so that he saw the Justice Gang. We get into them, fighting some interdimensional beings. Like, what, they got it, because he was having an existential crisis.
Justice Gang, the Justice Gang name is hilarious.
Justice Gang.
That's the working name.
Could very well prove to be permanent, though.
I did, and so I did like that this Superman was like this, and shout out to Guy Gardner too. I don't remember the name of that actor, but kudos to him too because
Nathan Fillion.
Kudos to him too because I
what did he play on?
Was growing to disdain this Guy Gardner. That's what Guy Gardner is. He's someone
Castle.
that you
That's
just want to
from
punch
Castle.
his face.
Yes,
and I wanted to punch his face.
Yeah,
but at the same time, he's Green Lantern. He was doing his Green Lantern thing.
And that's what I want to do this time around, guys. I want to break down certain things in this movie. And you went right there, so I give you that layup, okay, that you did. So I'm a Blake Griffin this, John, right? Because to me, the good of the movie was my fear of this film. Damn, they're showing me an awful lot. This is going to be really oversaturated. How are they going to do this? Then you get the runtime. You're like 2 hours. This is how you going to do this. As much as they were in the film, they wasn't in the film.
Right.
Yeah.
They had an impact, but they weren't still in the show.
They were not still in the show, except for Mr. Terrific to me. He is the stealer of this film to me. He, next to Superman, he's my favorite character here that has two legs because I'm a really big fan of Crypto, which I actually thought I was going to absolutely just hate Crypto. I didn't think I would like Crypto at all in this film, and that's another subject for a second. But the Justice Gang to me, and my girl who plays Hawk Girl, she didn't have to be in there. She got a raw end of the stick, if you will. But I think they also got a chance to show who she is when she dropped that man. Okay, because the Hawk Girl, if you watch Justice League animated series, she will drop his ass.
Yara was now. She was about that life.
She was about that life. She's a queen. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care. Die, peasant. And then, but I thought the Justice Gang, Mr. Rivet, and you said it, Guy Gardner, that's a Green Lantern I've never liked, even just from the comic books looking at him, because the haircut was stupid. I'm not going to lie. And then you come to find out some people actually love him. And then I see why. You know what I mean? And I thought
the haircut is stupid.
What DC has never really done great in other people's minds, not mine per se. I want to just be clear when I say that. I think they knocked it out the park with every person they got to play the roles in this movie. And that's what I liked about that. Speak on Justice Gang, Freckles Sensei.
So I just want to take a time out because my boy who played Mr. Terrific finally got his justice. Because what they did to him in X-Men First Class was some bullshit. How the hell you die? And you can't die.
That's all I keep hearing. Everybody said he can't die in Marvel. I didn't know that. So I didn't know who that guy was. So
he got justice in this movie because Mr. Terrific was the MVP. Mr. Terrific was the Lamar Jackson of this whole doggone movie. You hear me? This man was smart. This man was like, he was everything. He was funny, smart, and he could fight. I didn't even know who Mr. Terrific was for a while, except for, of course, when you watch
only Arrow. Only Arrow. And I didn't like that rendition of him.
Days of Tomorrow or something like that. Like Days of Tomorrow or something like that. But yeah, that was the only time I knew of Mr. Fantastic. So not Mr. Fantastic, but Mr. Terrific. So, and I'm definitely gonna be cosplaying in that jacket. It just costs $132. Jacket. So,
I mean, it does have his name on it. Then.
I'm gonna have to wait for that. But
like I said, I didn't know who he was until Arrow.
Exactly.
And then Flash.
Y'all
Flash.
see him on the Justice League animated?
I
Justice
do.
League Unlimited?
I remember them from the Unlimited
didn't watch
series, but
it.
I didn't watch it enough to pay. There were so many.
Yeah,
Let me
see,
rephrase that. I watched it enough. There
It's
were
so
so many
animated.
people
It's
in
yeah.
there. It was kind of a turnoff for me, other than my 6, 7, 8. I know that's the real story. But again, I'm gonna go back to his rendition against the guy who played him on Arrow. Nothing against that, Mr. Terrific, but he wasn't this guy. And I see people say, "Oh, he was a typical, all like the typical stereotypical black guy." I didn't see that from him. Next Doctor, as you talk about, what'd you get out of the Justice Gang?
I mean, I didn't like that because my knowledge of most of the, secondary heroes, Guy Gardner, Hawk Girl, Miss Terrific, is from the animated series.
Mine too.
So Shiera, they talked about the metahumans. Metahuman.
Yeah.
Shiera's not human.
No.
It's another species. She's an alien as well. So I was like, okay, well, they're talking about everybody else is human, and Superman's the only alien. I was like, well, Shiera's right there, but she's not in this rendition. It's like, okay, I can work with that. I did not kind of like, because I think they go some special ways with that, but I'm okay with it. But I did like this rendition of Mr. Terrific. I mean, he had hands. He had the brains and the bronze to get the work done, and he made it look effortlessly, and I loved that. And again, Guy Gardner, the representation, it made me want to punch him in his face, but at the same time, he's a skilled Green Lantern. And when he did
Justice Gang.
when he did the middle fingers in that battle,
Yeah.
So funny.
I was like, okay, yeah.
That was funny.
It showcased his personality. I think that really showed everybody's personality in this movie. They kind of fleshed them out. Even though they had short screen time, they really did flesh out who these characters were. And I did appreciate that.
Just a reminder, this is a spoiler review of Superman. Please, if you have not watched this film, please, I'll get your comments up a little bit later in the show. Please keep them coming. We just want to get through some of these things if we can. It's a lot to digest in a spoiler review because it's not just a regular talk through.
Right.
I've done that. That's gave me to where I will give my score later on of that. And I have seen some different writer ways of different things. So the Justice Gang was a big part of me. I know we briefly spoke about Lex. I did. I'm going to get you guys' opinion of Lex because, like I said, to me, Lex Luthor became Nicholas Hoult became my favorite Lex because I just loved the hate. I love that we're in a world finally that, like Justice League, he's already here. They're not. It's one scene. What do you call it in the Gagu, the Grey Goo, whatever little monster dinosaur thing
Kaiju.
is? Kaiju, and they're just outside like, oh shit, it's another monster because they're just used to it.
Used to it.
You know what I'm saying? Now that part, I think James Gunn should have. To me, that's where he could have not done that and had people running in fear. Right?
Yeah.
But I love Lex because it's this scene towards the end of the film when the world is splitting in half into everybody's gonna die. And that man said, Lex, we're gonna stop it right now. He said, no, let them die. I will stop it when it gets to a city I care about. I said, yo.
Yes.
That man said, nah, don't stop that shit for them. Go ahead.
That is villainy right there.
That's villainy right there.
And I did like this one because Lex he knew that he wasn't as strong, but he knew he could use his, and this is what Lex does. He uses his powers of manipulation, money, to get what he needs to get done. And I think he used that resource well. He manipulated everybody to turn against Superman so he could say, hey, look what I did. Look who this guy is.
With a bunch of robot monkeys. Super shit.
Listen, this man had interdimensional monkeys hating.
No, for real. That is.
But when you're a Superman, you got to have a super hater, though. So I get it. That was incredible. I definitely had to laugh. I think everybody in the theater laughed when they saw the monkeys being on there being super haters. That was fantastic.
That's all the manga people saying that this movie is too woke. That's what that was. That was what represents.
Oh, okay. And you know what? I was wondering what part because to me, I don't look at that world and I hate that word. It's just like it's like saying bro to me, right?
It's annoying now.
But to me, what I saw was James Gunn saying F you to everybody who was already effing this movie before it even came out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I thought that's what I thought was going. Oh, you're going to use these hashtags that are legitimately exist today because of the hatred. Like, are you a Superman fan or are you a Henry Cavill fan? All right, like I love every Superman. I love every single Superman that ever played the role since I was a kid because they're Superman, right? Y'all, people salivate for my guy from Teen Wolf that played him on the CW when it just went off. The Superman. And I'm not knocking that guy, but no girl thought he was cute at this age. If Superman's not attracted to women, he ain't Superman.
Yeah, exactly. That was one of his whole entire. There was a reason why he did a secret identity.
Yeah, he's not Superman. They like how they said, you know how like Guy Gardner said, he said, you know that he uses his glasses to like use hypnotism on people because it's just Clark Kent. You know what I'm saying? Like when they show like that Justice League building. Yeah. That's a mark out moment. So things that James Gunn did bad, he did. I didn't think he did good, but things he did good out there, he did good. But speak on this one. I'm sorry with you, Freckledens, next doctor. The villains that Lex had though, working for him. All right. Oh, Ultraman scene was deep because a lot of people was wondering who was Ultraman under the mask. That was a big. You know, I know I was one of them guys like, can it be Henry Cavill just to shut these fans up? But you know, it wasn't. And if you actually look at the trailer now, if you saw the movie, in the trailer, you see who it is. I slowed it down. They showed in the trailer that Ultraman's face was for like a half of, those nerds that get like a schmitz that you saw. Yeah. It's the same scene where his eyes gets burnt out. But speak on Ultraman or whatever his name was, the chick that was just dominating things.
The engineer.
The engineer. Like, she was badass herself, personally.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Yeah, engineer definitely gave I would say like Psylocke vibes, like, and just in comparison of like abilities and just pure badassery. Like I credit that to James Gunn. James Gunn has this formula that he does with all his movies where he makes every person that's in the movie gets like a special moment, makes them look bigger and better than they actually are or were. Whether it was in the comics, whether it was in just lore in general, he does a phenomenal job with that, and we saw it with this because Jesus, I thought she, you kept on wondering who was like the real villain in this because they showed the monster.
Somebody else asked me that, right? Let me interrupt you and ask you that question. The villain's Lex Luthor.
Yeah, I'm about to say,
that's the villain of this movie is Lex.
The ultimate villain is Lex, but we were just wondering. What was going to be the biggest, baddest thing that Superman's got to defeat? And we say, yay, and be happy. And they played the song and the end. This was, some people thought that didn't happen. But I did, like I said, I did enjoy, I phenomenally enjoyed Ultraman more. I enjoyed kind of Ultraman more only because it was just that pure brute force, that pure outsmarting him, outdoing Superman and everything. And then on top of that, like to introduce him out the gate as just a badass was just very smart. So I like the play on that. Like I said, it seemed that everybody had like a defining moment.
That's where I'm glad you went there. Speaking of defining moments, to me, what makes this movie and the story, let me speak about the story of this, right? Lex gets everybody to turn on Superman because he invades the Fortress of Solitude. Everybody wondered, how did Lex get in there? Because he used Ultraman because he's been Ultraman for 30 years. The beginning of this movie led you all, tell you everything you needed to know. For 30 years, this happened ago. 300 million years, this happened. 3 minutes ago, this just happened. He caught you up very, very quickly in this. So they invade and finds, the video that Clark lived by, thinking that his parents, Jor-El, played by Bradley Cooper, and his mother, which first thing my wife said was, oh, Superman's interracial? First, soon she saw his mother. Like, that's not a white woman. But, oh, I'm sorry. They're not Earthlings, so they have race colors in other universes and other planets. Maybe that's just an Earth thing. Who knows? Right? So anyway, but the message ultimately says, which if you look at this is the same message, people. Oh, I wish I had it in the studio. I don't have it. Message. Okay. This was Smallville's message. He was sent here, his father, to dominate the earth. That's what Clark has always been his story, people. So people saying, oh, that's not the story. That is the story. However, for them all to change on him because they hear that story, I thought was kind of weak in the storyline of that. But the relationships that he forms, to me, my favorite part of this movie, sets the whole entire scene for this movie, is the interview scene. I talked about this for weeks leading up. It's the longest part of the entire movie. It's a total of 12-minute runtime from the time she gets in the door to the whole thing. And y'all know the scene I'm talking about.
People were going to die.
That interview scene to me dictates who Superman is in this film right here.
Absolutely.
He's so frustrated because his own girlfriend, who does her job, this is Lois Lane. We know her, Laura, as well. She's a great investigative reporter. There's a quote, Lois and Clark, which I started watching again, going up to this movie this weekend. He says, Lois, you're an investigator, reporter. How about investigating? So you know it's going to be great at what she does. Even they kept off the record, on the record. You can't say he posted it before the hand. The whole scene is building towards understanding that, Lois, I may get what you're saying, Superman. I almost love you, because he says that she doesn't. So that's another thing to talk about. They've only been dating for 3 months at this point, right? He's getting frustrated. Like, my girl don't even understand what I'm doing here and why I'm doing this. It's not about but she's grilling him. You know what I mean? She talked to the president. He's getting frustrated and more and more and more and more. And because he's in a world by himself where no one understands who he really is. And who is Superman? He's Ma and Pa Kent child. Okay? Yeah. Another part of this, I see people say that they don't like his parents playing his parents. I've never seen Martha Kent with an accent. How come when they're from Kansas, they're country, they're Southern, if some would say, right?
Kansas is country.
As soon as she started talking, I said I loved it. As soon as she started, they were on the phone. We saw you in the paper. I was like, oh, this is crazy. Like, she really, and they don't stand out as people in Metropolis who you see there. They got this, they look like hometown people. This is where he's from. This is who he is right here. So those are my favorite 2 scenes of this movie, because it builds where him and Lois are and who he is. And that's the whole temperature of this movie, is him just trying to navigate through a world who doesn't understand him. This man saved a dog and a squirrel all while fighting people. What's these to saving a squirrel? I don't know. I tell them, they jump out in front of the car every time you're driving and say, you better not make me rash this car. It's my car, you squirrel. I'm going to kill the squirrel. Superman, save the squirrel. Next, Doctor, your take on the plot of this movie and everything I just covered there.
Listen, I totally agree that definitely sets the way that this Superman is, because, as I said at the beginning, he's the Boy Scout. This is the Superman that cares for everyone. That was his whole thing. He was sent there to help humanity. So he wants to take care as much as he can with his strength to help out humanity. Every time there was a chance for him to save a person, he put himself in the way of danger in that person. And it didn't even stop with the people. It even kept to the animals. The squirrel. It's a squirrel. There's thousands of them. They're not sentient like humans, but he still cared. And this is the type of Superman that he was. And I think that definitely showcased, you go back to that interview scene, and I think that definitely, set it up to really get an understanding of where his mindset was. He didn't care about politics. He didn't care about what the government thought, even though, he would. He's an American citizen, technically. He didn't care about any of that. It was like, people were going to die. Right. I need to stop people from dying, period. And I think that even with the way that Lois was grilling, I think that she was doing that in a loving manner to show him that even though I think she believes in him, he has to understand what humanity thinks, how humanity looks at things, because they can't just say, oh, it's going to be okay just because he's doing that. It can't be black and white. It's not black and white in humanity's world. In his world, it is black and white. And that's the disconnect. Even though he wants to
connect
with humanity, that's the disconnect between him and humans. There's gray.
Even in that scene where he talks about, she said, "What you do with him?" She said, "I flew him off somewhere." And you did what? Oh, I stuck him into a cactus. He said, "Well, no, they don't hurt. They're like this big." Like to him, like
to me, I'm thinking, I don't matter how big the hell. There's a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, and you just Superman me into some cactuses. That it hurts. You know what I mean?
Not just like I'm sure it wasn't just like his in Superman Returns. It was just him and Lois like the nice gentle flight. This was probably close to supersonic, just so the guy doesn't pass out.
Yeah,
and womb right into a cactus. And to be quite honest, I'm not mad at him.
Okay,
that'd be something that I would do. So yeah, I love that. And yeah, I think this really did showcase. Like I said, I think this is a really good Superman story. Classic Boy Scout Superman. That's why I enjoyed it.
Freckle Sensei, your take on his parents and the things we've already discussed here thus far.
I actually enjoyed the parents. Like, see, this is why I love being a wrestling fan, because it teaches me how people just not gonna love anything that you give them, because the parents logic. If you just put
something, I'm sorry. I mean, because that comment I saw it come up. Yeah. That's this part to me from the part that he's talking. That was the
theme of the whole movie
with Lois.
People were going to die.
That was the theme.
So this part right here, when Lex says to him, "You stupid, blah blah blah," he goes, "That's your problem. I'm just as human as anybody. I cry. I have emotions. I am human." And to me, that's what we go ahead, Freckles.
That was the theme of the whole movie. Like once that quote came out, it solidified the whole entire motto. But yeah, the parents, I definitely enjoyed the accent. I definitely enjoyed the moment. I almost said I almost shed like a little thug tear when the dad was talking to him and saying he couldn't be so much proud and everything. Of course, in the back of my head, I was like, please don't kill this dad. Please do not kill. Don't pull a Man of Steel. Please don't do this to me. Please. I don't want this to happen. But thankfully it didn't. I don't see how somebody would critique that, because they're in Kansas. Mm-hmm. That's what you see in Kansas. Nothing but cornfields and tractor trailers. So you're gonna see a guy with a pot belly, with a Southern charm, and a woman that's gonna cook.
Listen, you look at this film, and like I said, Crypto's the last thing I want to talk about as well before we go into if you have any dislikes. I know I had a few and I've discussed them here. I never understood when Crypto and I found out it was him and Superman. I just left it as I've seen that in visuals before. Yeah. Never been my thing. I didn't been like the Superman Crypto dog movie that came out with the human dog. I didn't like that stuff. I just never liked that aspect of it. But again, I think I'm different than most fans when it comes to a lot of entertainment because of what I was taught by a great professor, Margaret Kirby. Yeah, I said your name, girl. That, you have to look at where the things are going. And the fact that James Gunn took this dog that he adopted, how this dog acted in his house, he wrote him in this script to fit this role, to me was perfect for this dog. Wow. That you find out, spoiler alert, it's not even his dog. Now that's the part that's weird, because you always thought Crypto is. You've always thought, right? I'm not sure exactly if it was said before. I'm not going to speak on it.
Well, yeah, because it was always even in the comic. I mean, not comics, even in the animation series.
It says his dog. So they changed that a little bit. Okay, and it's not even a post credit scene. So we're talking about spoiler alerts. Where I finished with that part, but. A scene I had to talk about, and I want nobody to take my thunders, but I told Freckle Sensei, but I seen on any of his pages before. Everybody will mimic somebody. Okay. To me, I caught the similarities between a scene with Crypto that they got from Marvel. When Crypto grabs Lex and Lex is just running off at the mouth, it was similarity to when Hulk grabbed fucking Loki and said, boom.
Yep.
Because Crypto just started whooping Lex's ass. Yo.
In the middle of him speaking.
Speaking.
I definitely picked up on that. I was like, oh, puny.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is
puny human.
I was just caught up in Crypto beating the crap out of Lex that I didn't even make
that come together.
Make the comparison.
I love that part of it. I love the action in this movie. For me, I can't say it again. When Lex finally realizes he's about to lose, and he's trying to escape back to this interportal dimension, right? To get away, which I'll be honest, I didn't talk about that scene too much, and we'll come back in a second. The way that Superman comes and just smashes him, if you're a wrestling fan, it's like when John Cena a couple weeks ago just smashed referee Charles Robinson run down the ringway, or a spear from Braun Breaker on somebody. He saw him and tried to run away from Superman, and just boom, and just hit him. And then how they lock, like it's so much in this movie. James Gunn, to me, parts I didn't like, and I go to you, Freckles Sensei, and you next doctor. Parts I did not like. Not enough death, too short of a movie. I thought the comedy at times was good for when it was there. I thought the scenes that showed that the world, even the world's used to superheroes, you're gonna run when you see danger building. Like not like there's literally a fight with a big ass oversized Super Mario character, and they all just sit around and watch this happen. That part I did not like. I did highly love when he fought Bizarro, is what I'm gonna call him. Y'all call him Marchman, you want to, but that's Bizarro. He's not dead in that black hole. He will be back. Okay, that's Bizarro. I hated the ads where it showed to me during the scene here. Afterwards, they show the line where his eyes are really red. And I thought, please don't tell me his eyes get red from using his heat vision. But he was getting his eyes burnt the hell out using his heat vision. So again, I don't have a lot of bad things to say about this movie. Frankly be told, I just don't. And my star ratings of how I do things here on my network under belts, I would flat out get this thing 4.5 out of 5. My favorite title of all time. Whatever title it is for you, you use that. But for me, it was my first very belt I ever got. It's my undisputed world heavyweight title that for me, synonymous with Brock Lesnar and guys of that nature that had that title. Kurt Angle had that belt. This movie, to me, it's the things that it did not do good, I'm okay with enough that it didn't stop me from loving the things that was good about it. And I literally, and I must say this, at the part where the people are cheering for him, and how the people rode for him in this movie. This man dies because he loves Superman so much when Lex, playing with the gun of a Russian roulette, said, "It's okay, Superman. I have nothing. I have no family." And Lex shoots and kills this man. Okay? Things like that. This was Superman that we've never got on a screen before, and it's flat out that damn good to me. James Gunn, you give me belief for the DCU can come back. And then that thing I don't like, Supergirl being introduced as a drunk, which means he's going to get his kind of a Guardians of the Galaxy movie out there. And I should have known that when they had Lobo casted, because that's her dog. And we know why Crypto is such a bad dog, because he has a bad owner who loves how he beats her ass. And she just laughs at it because she's not on Earth. So she goes to a planet that has a red sun so they can get drunk. I did not like that introduction of Supergirl. I love my girl who's going to play her from House of Dragons. Not a fan of that whatsoever. Freckles, your final thoughts and grade.
So I would say that this movie, since we comparing titles, this movie is like the Intercontinental title. It's based off of a great legacy that got tarnished by some people. Dean Cain, Val Venus.
Hold on, Val Venus. I told me they're coming on the title. You stupid. Go ahead. I love Dean Cain, man. Leave Dean Cain out of this. You didn't say Brandon Roth. Like, he's worse than Dean Cain as Superman. And I like that movie. People didn't like Superman Returns. I understood he didn't throw a punch. Executive consultant.
I honestly did enjoy Superman Returns. It was pretty cool. It was actually one of the only Supermans that I rated a thumbs up. Anyway, but that's how I view this movie. My only complaint was that there was no. I'm so used to, and I know it's because the great movies that we've had before. I'm so spoiled, and superhero movies give you like a big surprise, like one of those. Oh, the only big surprise we had was Peacemaker showing up, and I mean
that was a nice little peaceful thing to
it was
see Peacemaker show up on the commercial. That was a good take. Good take.
like it was cool, but if he had showed up fighting or something like that, that would have been.
I think it was perfect this way. He shouldn't have been in this fight no way. This to me showed them how perfect James Gunn made this world of what we see on TV as kids, where Superman beating somebody's ass over here, saving a cat over here, and then all of a sudden he got super friends over here. That's to me what this movie was.
I would say one of my favorite scenes. One of my favorite scenes was definitely when Superman and Lois is talking, and then like right beside them is the Justice Gang fighting what seems to be like a starfish thing or something.
Mm-hmm. The big old baseball bat the guy guard was trying to hit it out the park.
It was just so that scene was so funny because she was like, "You're gonna." He was like, "Nah, they got it. They got it." Another scene that people had criticized about, which I like, was the whole Barvin conflict that was going on. That Lex time it was Lex after all, but the symbolism of like the kids grabbing the flag for that symbol of hope for Superman to save them, and instead of Superman, it was of course the Justice Gang. But that part, I definitely enjoyed. This definitely gets a 4.5 out of 5 for me. Like I said, once again, if not the best Superman movie, top 3 at bare minimum Superman movie.
I'm gonna wait. I got my final thoughts. On that one. Next, Doctor.
You know, like I said, from the first shot of the word Superman, I was like, okay, because I love the Christopher Reeves Superman era.
I kid you not.
Yeah, you know, so I saw that and I was like, okay, already you got me hooked. Now I will say that I was not sold on Crypto.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciated the inclusion because of what it allowed the movie to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, helping out Superman, having another tool for Superman to use to be able to overcome, you know, something for him to fight for. And, you know, so I appreciate that, but I still wasn't sold on Crypto's inclusion. I also agree with the inclusion of Supergirl at the end, the way that they introduced her. You know, my knowledge of her, again, not from the comics, it's just from, you know, animated things. And, you know, in the various ones, she's either kind of feeling alone because she came afterward, or she's, you know, kind of headstrong, but still not disrespectful, you know, and like to call Superman a B.
Yeah.
Walk out and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So that, you know, also threw me off, especially at the end when, you know, you're on this high and then you get that and it's like, it kind of like squashed it.
It did have the moments for not making a perfect score for me, for sure.
You know, and so initially I was giving it a 4.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, throughout our talking about, okay, yeah, I've seen these things, you know, there's an appreciation, just like with Superman Returns. I didn't appreciate it as much when it first came out, but I didn't have people to talk about it as much like I do here. So I can give it that extra 0.5 because it was such a good Superman story. You know, James Gunn definitely did well in putting together this world where I could believe, you know, these people existed and it works. The people not moving, you know, I don't take that as a bad thing because, you know, if you think about the way the world is now, especially when they were showing, you know, him fighting, people were around, had their phones out, people are kind of desensitized to it, and they just want to see and live their life. So I can see that happening. Sure, there's a threat of danger, but, you know, I could be asleep and then something, you know, crash into my apartment. I wouldn't even know. So I can see them going on with their daily lives because they're just so used to it. It's like those people that are in, you know, places that have a lot of crime. Sure, you have your wits about you, but you're just so used to it that you hear a gunshot. You know, if I hear a gunshot in my neighborhood,
Yeah.
Somebody had gunshot in another neighborhood. They're like, oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
You know, so I get that, and I can believe, and that made the world more believable to me because they like, oh yeah, this is just another Saturday. You know, this is another Sunday. I still got to go to work. These bills still got to get paid. So if I run away, you know, but the cart, you know, the store didn't get messed up, but you left, and now I got vandalized. That's coming out of your check. No, I ain't coming out of my check, Playboy. I'm right here on my post.
Yeah.
All right. So I get that, and yeah, I think the overall story, the overall way this movie was done and shot, I like the angles too. I like the way that they did things. You know, I think that this was a great Superman movie. Definitely, I will give it that 4.5 stars. It did have some stuff, especially at the end.
Yeah.
Kinda, you know, took the air out of it, but still 4.5 stars, especially given, you know, my man, Mr. Terrific, you know, even though you know, showcasing his skills.
Yeah.
Yes,
Does
4.5 stars. I will
does that
give it.
make us cheer for him just because? Maybe so. Don't judge us. All right. That's just what it is. All right. You know who we voting for. But
Play clip.
Every time.
I don't have it in this studio, man. I changed things around. So my final thoughts, like I said, 4.5 out of 5. I'm with the next doctor here. It does take some points off from it. It was some things that could have been better. And for me to be not the biggest James Gunn fan, I stand. So I know a lot of people who are James Gunn fans. I've seen a lot of people give thumbs up to this movie, give it a solid 3.5 or 4. You know, happy, smiling with it, but not loving it. Right? I think the critics will be mixed on it. I think the casuals will love it. I think the movie people will be indifferent on it and not give it such a high super score. I think it's something that I'm going to wait to come out on DVD and even own. Not that's because I have streaming services going to come on. I love this movie, and I'm going to say it. If you look at my TikTok, I said no one will ever replace Henry Cavill. Henry Cavill was a Superman who was my favorite Superman. This is the best rendition of Superman we have ever seen on the screen. It's Corenswet, in my opinion. He is the embodiment of what I've always fell in love with for Superman. The ultimate Boy Scout. Only person that even comes close to him in that Boy Scout manner, y'all know who it is. All right. And that's Captain America. They're the two most clean cut. I got to do it by the book people they were until they get older and they realize people are stupid. But at this time, and I will say this as well. This has become my favorite Superman movie of all time. I'm going to go see it again tomorrow morning.
I know I'm definitely
at 10:15. I think this movie is a deserve to go see it. When you walk out of a theater, and the only thing, again, my negatives, why it's not a 5, why some Superman fans will not give it a higher score. We are tired of seeing our boy get his butt kicked. He got his butt kicked for 3/3 of the movie. But I was watching Justice League Unlimited yesterday. Superman always gets his butt kicked. Then he comes back because that's Superman. Yeah. Those who love Invincible. Invincible gets his ass kicked, then he comes back as Invincible.
Beat to submission. Worse than Superman, really.
It's just, that's my final thoughts on this movie. I thank everybody for tuning in. If I'm crazy, then guess what? I ain't lazy. So it's okay. All right. Word to Patrick Swayze. And I had the time of my life. And I owe it all to you again, James Gunn, for giving me a wonderful Superman. I am out of here, y'all. We love you. That's the next Dr. Catch up on Unpop Review Entertainment, the Federation Tuesdays. That is Freckle Sensei. Follow him at Freckle Sensei. And you already know what Mike Knoxxx is. Y'all know what it is. Listen, we are out of here. We love you. Peace.
Peace.